Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Changemakers20 Summit 2023. It's day 5, and we are again with another session under the theme Social Justice and Inclusion, entitled as Samwaad and represented by Queer Education India. Before starting with the session, I would like to give a brief overview of the speakers over here. We have Chitvan, pronounced she, they, he, founder and director of Queer Education India. Chitvan is the founder. Chitvan have written book and poems as they believe that words carry so much power that it can change the world to bring the beauty that we see as an individual. We have Sakhi, who will be joining very shortly. Pronouns are they. She is a co-founder. They are the co-founder of Queer Education Initiative Foundation. They are undergraduate students at Jamia Millia Islamia. They believe in voicing out their ideas and having open discussion on topics that should be talked about more. We have Sujitha here. Pronouns are he. Sujitha is someone who would be labeled forced representation if they have a character in a movie or a TV series. Growing up, he has always felt guilt and shame around his own feelings and how he wanted to express himself. He dreams of a world where no child has to go through that. As an extremely neurodivergent person who struggles to find the support and accommodations to be needed in navigate life, he wants to be an educator who fills the gap between formal education and real life while accounting for the explicit and unspoken expectations placed on individuals based on the roles the society expects them to conform to. We have Rashmi with pronouns they. Rashmi currently working with Queer Education India Initiative Foundation as a social media manager. Rashmi has recently graduated from high school and currently preparing for college entrance. Being a queer person, she, they, I feel, they feel in the country they are more raised, misled, and misinformed that just blatantly aggressive. Guess I am an optimistic that they are. They joined Queer Education India in June with the sole motive of getting to know more about queer issues as well as educating people about the same. As a social media manager, they oversee the workings of interns and the posts they are going out on a daily basis. We have Shivansh Johri, he, him. He's a seasoned hospitality professional with over 7 years of work experience with the gold standard in the Indian hospitality industry, Oberoi Hotels and Resorts, achieving excellence across operations, customer service, and sales and marketing domain with a passion of management. Adapt in analytical thinking, strategic planning, leadership, and building strong relationship with their business partners with a passion of for advocating for LGBTQ rights in all spaces. In my capacity as a public relation manager at Queer Education India Foundation, he works to expand the reach of the organization along with the communication. Now, I would like to hand over the stage to the team of Queer Education India. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anand Joshi, for introducing us and whole Queer Education Initiative Foundation. We are really, really pleased to have the whole team over here as the members of Queer Education Initiative. And we are glad that we are part of CH20. So we'll be quickly just sharing our material and sharing a screen. Okay. So before moving ahead, I just quickly like to introduce myself. I'm Chitvan and I go by pronounced they, he. And this is, we are basically Queer Education Initiative Foundation. Now, before we move ahead about what is Samwaad, what is queer movements in India across centuries that we are going to talk about, what is Queer Education Initiative Foundation is the first question that I would like to address today and try to give you a brief about our whole organization in a whole. So, moving ahead, Queer Education Initiative Foundation was established in 2021 as Queer Education India. And very recently, it registered as a Section 8 NPO under Companies Act 2013. Queer Education Initiative Foundation works towards raising awareness about the LGBT plus community across people of all ages from varying backgrounds. We have been doing, this is a long run, we have been doing initiatives and conducting workshops and campaigns, etc., out there to bring about the change in the reality of it. When we say that what exactly is queer education initiative about, it is solely and primarily about bringing about the education in the world. We as individuals over here tend to work upon our life skills, our growth, etc., and a lot more. But it takes a lot of courage somehow to do that social work out there. Indeed, that is one of the reasons that we are over here for carrying the theme and proving our theme of social justice and inclusion as well. So one of the questions that arise in most of the people out there is that why do we do this? Now, tackling systematic injustices that are embedded into our legal and social system requires willpower and effort. Activism does not happen in a vacuum. A movement requires action, not only in political spheres, but also in the social setup in order to reduce discrimination, hatred, and the raw violence against marginalized people. People tend to think that social media activism is something that can bring about the change, which indeed it does to a certain level. But when it comes to the reality of it, on the ground work is something that Queer Education Initiative Foundation believes in. We welcome and include everybody with an open mind, not in hopes of adopting them into our movement, but hoping they don't stand in our way. Going ahead and moving forward, what is the vision and mission of Queer Education Initiative Foundation? Now, our vision is a world where everyone is celebrated and respected for who they are, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. We envision a future where people from all walks of life are able to come together in a spirit of unity and acceptance, to celebrate diversity and promote social justice for all. Our non-profit organization is committed to raising awareness about LGBT plus issues through the development and delivery of high-quality, evidence-based workshops. We strive to educate individuals and communities about the experiences of LGBT plus people and to empower them with the knowledge and tools they need to become allies and advocates for this marginalized population. This will directly impact how individuals and policymakers understand social equity, thus paving the path to a just society on all levels. Now, let's come back to what Samwaad is. As you can clearly see, queer movements in India across centuries is one of the topics that we're going to discuss today. But in the literal sense, Samwaad is the definition of the English word conversation, which is a to and fro communication between individuals and folks. We wholeheartedly believe, we together all believe that Queer Education Initiative Foundation should take a step forward to explain and understand, make people understand about queer movements in India. Samvad is just a beginning out there. It's our primary step to bring about the change that we want to see and letting people know about the queer movements across. We as an organization have been doing rigorous work and workshops and conduction of various I would say workshops out there, collectively impacting a lot of people without any biases. If we have to start over, there has been workshops for people out there, for children, for adolescents, for people of our generation, people of our different ages as well. If we look about outside our comfort zone, we tend to understand that there is a lot that people need to understand. But when we talk about particularly in our country, we also realize that before people must learn, they have to unlearn a lot. In considering this whole thing, we would like to say that Samvad is a mere step by us to make all of you understand about what exactly is happening under this queer movements in India. Because we tend to believe that queerness has always been there.
Sharing a short film showed by FTII, Film and Television Institute of India's students.
When we were planning Samvad, we were discussing as to what exactly should we go about. Should it be gender sensitization? Because apparently the world that we live in today, sensitization about gender, sex, and sexuality is something which is very important. People across nations, countries, and beyond must understand that what exactly it is about. And why must someone be framed to, you know, just showcase homophobia, transphobia, and queerphobia in a way that just hampers the whole working of an individual? But representing our country also gave us an edge to at least make sure that we can deliver a message of what exactly queer movements in India are about. We believe that people must be understood of the fact that how India has contributed to what exactly queer movement is out there. And if we have to just showcase that what exactly is all about, we also tend to understand this one thing that we also learned a lot by doing this. When we talk about queer movements, there's a lot. But somehow people just manages to know and certainly just so certainly they believe that queer movements is all about those religious texts out there which are very old and sort of which are privileged also. But when we realize in today's world there has been a lot of queer movements that has been contributing to the betterment of the whole queer theory in itself. LGBT plus people has always been there, and this particular presentation that we are sharing with you today will be starting off with a short film that all of our team liked and proposed towards, voted towards as well. This will give us an edge, and I hope dearly that it will also make you understand as to how exactly queer movements works in India. Similarly, if we have to continue, queer movements has given the whole community as well an edge. It felt it felt that they are giving us a feeling of belongingness. When we also continued with the whole queer movements, we understood this one thing that queer representation has been always there. In today's world that we live in, there is a lot of representations out there in different forms as well. But this particular presentation gave us an understanding that how exactly queer people has always been there and a lot to it. So, believing so, I think let's wait and we can share, we can see the screen as well. So, Rashmi, can you please take over?
ദയവായി ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക മഹാരാജാസ് കോളേജിലേക്ക് പോകുന്ന ട്രെയിൻ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം നമ്പർ 2 നിന്ന് യാത്ര തുടങ്ങാൻ The train heading to Maharaja's College is going to leave from platform number 2. Thank you.
എന്താ ചേട്ടാ ഇങ്ങനെ തുറച്ചു നോക്കുന്നത്?
कोची मेट्रो आपकी सुखद एवं सुरक्षित यात्रा की कामना करता है। कोची मेट्रो നിങ്ങൾക്ക് സുരക്ഷിതവും ആനന്ദകരവുമായ
ആ ചേച്ചി 2-3 ദിവസമായിട്ട് കണ്ടില്ലല്ലോ.
ഞാൻ അവധിയിലായിരുന്നു. ഫൈസുന്റെ ഇന്റർവ്യൂ ഞാൻ പത്രത്തിൽ കണ്ടിരുന്നു. നന്നായിരുന്നു.
നാട്ടിൽ പോയിരുന്നാണ്?
ഇല്ല, മോന് വയ്യായിരുന്നു. ശരി ശരി, നാളെ കാണാം.
ദയവായി ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക മഹാരാജാസ് കോളേജിലേക്ക് പോകുന്ന ട്രെയിൻ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം നമ്പർ 2 നിന്ന് യാത്ര തുടങ്ങാൻ
സാറേ ഇവിടെ ഗ്യാപ്പുണ്ട്, ഇങ്ങോട്ട് വന്നു. നീ എന്താടി എന്തൊക്കെയൊന്നും പോണില്ലേ? പോണം. ഡാ അസ്ലമേ, നീ എന്താ മൈൻഡ് ഒന്നും ഇല്ലാണ്ട്?
Hi, we're really sorry for taking the break right here. We are noticing that some of us are facing an issue with the audio. So we're just gonna take a little bit of time and then redo the whole thing again so that we can watch it in peace.
So in the meantime, I request Rashmi to just come over here and maybe give us an overview or brief as to what we're going to see exactly, and a little bit background about the short film as well, if possible.
Um, so this short film actually tells the story of three trans people. One of them has gotten a job via the policy of the government, transgender policy of the government of affirmative action. The other one is engaged in sex work or prostitution, we can call it. And the third one, we aren't clear exactly what their profession is, but they did work as in some play or something in mandirs or in temples or in plays. So it tells us about how the society, even when you get a job, even when you are in a very respectable position in the society, but also a transgender person, the society still sees you the same. It will treat you with uh, certain stigma surrounding itself, with certain prejudices, and even in the film we will be able to see that the person who has gotten a job on the railway station counter, um, she was also discriminated against, as people prefer to uh, go to more cisgender looking or cis passing women to book their tickets instead of the transgender woman. Um, the second person will, uh, the second transgender person we'll see, was engaged in sex work. Is the story is a little less of theirs, as we aren't able to see their personality as a whole, but one thing is for sure, that they are a very kind, a very giving person, as they uh, gave their chains to a boy working in their house as a house help, silver chains to the boy that was working as a house help. And the third person, they portrayed the Lord Krishna in one of the plays, and it is a very beautiful uh, portrayal, as we'll be able to see when the short film will be playing. And uh, one one dialogue that really struck me was, did the people not notice your breasts? And the transgender person was like, because I was bored, they were worshipping me. So yeah, we'll be screening the film shortly.
ദയവായി ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക, മഹാരാജാസ് കോളേജിലേക്ക് പോകുന്ന ട്രെയിൻ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം നമ്പർ 5 നിന്ന് യാത്ര തുടങ്ങാൻ പോകുകയാണ്. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് നന്ദി. Attention please. The train heading to Maharaja's College is going to leave from platform number 2. Thank you.
എന്താ ചേട്ടാ ഇങ്ങനെ തുറച്ചു നോക്കുന്നത്?
कोची मेट्रो आपकी सुखद एवं सुरक्षित यात्रा की कामना करती है. കൊച്ചി മെട്രോ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് സുരക്ഷിതവും ആനന്ദകരവുമായ
ആ ചേച്ചി 2-3 ദിവസമായിട്ട് കണ്ടില്ലല്ലോ.
ഞാൻ അവധിയിലായിരുന്നു. ഫൈസുന്റെ ഇന്റർവ്യൂ ഞാൻ പത്രത്തിൽ കണ്ടിരുന്നു. നന്നായിരുന്നു.
നാട്ടിൽ പോയിരുന്നാണ്?
ഇല്ല, മോന് വയ്യായിരുന്നു. ശരി ശരി, നാളെ കാണാം.
ദയവായി ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക. മഹാരാജാസ് കോളേജിലേക്ക് പോകുന്ന ട്രെയിൻ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം നമ്പർ 2 നിന്ന് യാത്ര തുടങ്ങാൻ പോകുകയാണ്. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് നന്ദി.
ഒരു MG road.
30.
സാറേ ഇവിടെ ഗ്യാപ്പ് ഉണ്ട്, ഇങ്ങോട്ട് വന്നാൽ മതി.
എടപ്പാളിയാണ്.
20.
നീ എന്താടി നിന്റെ എന്തൊക്കെയൊന്നും പോണില്ലേ?
പോണം.
ഡാ അസ്ലമേ, നീ എന്താടി മൈൻഡ് ഒന്നും ഇല്ലാണ്ട്?
പുതിയ ഓണർ വന്നില്ലേ, അതിൻ്റെ തിരക്കില്ല. എനിക്ക് ഇയാളെ ഇഷ്ടമല്ല. ഞാൻ ഈ ജോലി വിടും.
അയാൾ ഞങ്ങളുടെ റൂമിൽ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ആരെ വേണമെങ്കിലും കൊണ്ടുവന്നോ, എന്ത് വേണമെങ്കിലും അയക്കോ, അയാൾക്ക് കാശ് കിട്ടിയാൽ മതിയെന്ന്.
കുറച്ച് അകലെയുള്ള ലോഡ്ജിൽ എനിക്ക് ജോലി റെഡി ആവുന്നുണ്ട്. നാളെ കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ വീട്ടിൽ പോവും. തിരിച്ച് വന്നിട്ട് അവിടെ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യും.
ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വേറെ വീട് ശരിയായിട്ടുണ്ട്. 2-3 ദിവസം ഞങ്ങളോട് മാറും.
അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ തിരിച്ചു വരുമ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളെ കാണാൻ പറ്റില്ലല്ലേ?
നീ തിരിച്ചു വാ, ഞങ്ങൾ ഈ ട്രാക്കിലൊക്കെ തന്നെ ഉണ്ടാവും.
എവിടാ നിങ്ങളുടെ വീട്? അപ്പോൾ ഈ വേഷമൊക്കെ കെട്ടി ഇത്രയും ദൂരം വരണ്ടേ?
വേഷം കെട്ടോ? എന്താണ് വേഷം കെട്ട്?
അല്ലല്ല, ഞാനങ്ങനെ പറയാനെത്തല്ല. സോറി. ഇന്ന് നമുക്കൊരുമിച്ച് ഭക്ഷണം കഴിക്കാൻ പോയാലോ?
നേരല്ല, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ട്രാക്കിൽ പോണം.
ശരി, എന്നാ വേണ്ട.
ചക്ക ഒന്ന് നിന്നേ. ബാഗിനകത്തൊരു മാലയുണ്ട്, ഇത് എടുക്കണം. ये तुम्हारी बहन को दे देना. मैं जाता हूँ.
ഇത് തള്ളേ, ഇന്നൊരു സംഭവം ഉണ്ടായി. ഞാൻ മെട്രോ സ്റ്റേഷനിൽ ജോലി കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഇറങ്ങി വരുമ്പോഴേ ഒരാൾ വന്നിട്ട് എന്നോട് പറയാണ്, ഞങ്ങളുടെ സർക്കാർ ഉള്ളത് കൊണ്ടാണ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ജോലി കിട്ടിയെന്ന്. അപ്പം ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ്, നിങ്ങളുടെ സർക്കാർ കാരണം ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ജോലി കിട്ടിയെന്നുള്ളത് ശരിയൊക്കെ തന്നെയാണ് എന്ന് കരുതി നിങ്ങൾ ഞങ്ങളുടെ അപ്പനാവാൻ നോക്കണ്ട.
ഞാൻ ട്രാക്കിലേക്ക് പോവാം.
ഹലോ, എവിടെയാണ് എൻ്റെ മുത്തേ? വരുന്നുണ്ട്. ഹാ ഹാ ഹാ, കാണാല്ലേ? ശരി. ഒരു സനം തൂങ്കിരിച്ചേ, ഊതക്കാറ്റും അടിച്ചിരിച്ചേ, പാവി മനം தூங்கலையே ஏனும் ஏனும் புரியலையே. എന്താടി, എന്തു പറ്റി എടി, എന്ത് പറ്റിയെന്ന്? ഞാൻ നിന്നോട് പലതവണ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ലേ സ്പോട്ടിൽ കൊടുക്കരുതെന്ന്.
ഞാൻ ശരിക്കും പേടിച്ചു പോയി.
ആ ഇതെന്താ വേഷം പോലും മാറാതെ ഇങ്ങ് പോന്നു?
ഇവിടെ അടുത്തല്ലായിരുന്നു പരിപാടി, അവര് വണ്ടിയിൽ ഇങ്ങോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് വിട്ട്.
എങ്ങനെയുണ്ടായിരുന്നത് പെർഫോമൻസ്?
ഞാൻ ആദ്യമായിട്ടില്ലേ കൃഷ്ണവേഷത്തില്, അത് ശരിക്കും അങ്ങ് അഴിഞ്ഞാടി.
അപ്പൊ ഈ കൃഷ്ണന് മുലയുള്ള കാര്യം നാട്ടുകാർക്കൊന്നും മനസ്സിലായില്ലേ?
ഇന്ന് ഞാൻ ദൈവമല്ലേ, എല്ലാവർക്കും ഭയങ്കര ബഹുമാനമാണ്.
കഴിഞ്ഞാണ് വീട്ടിൽ ചെന്നപ്പം അപ്പനൊരേ തന്നെ മുടി വെട്ടണം എന്ന്.
ഈ മുടി വെട്ടാനാ?
അപ്പം ഞാൻ ശിവന്റെ പേഴ്സണൽ ഫോട്ടോ കാണിച്ചു കൊടുത്തു. ഭഗവാന്റെ കാര്യമില്ലേ, വേറെ ഒന്നും പറഞ്ഞില്ല. നീ ഇതെപ്പോഴാ ഗുളിക നിർത്തുന്നേ?
ഇത് കുറച്ചും കൂടി ഒന്ന് വളരട്ടെ മോളെ. ഇന്ന് അപ്പം തന്നെയാണ്.
ഈ മുലനി അങ്ങോട്ട് വളരാനാണ്?
ആ നീ അന്വേഷിക്കാനടി കുട്ടിപ്പാവടെ.
ഇന്നലെ എടുത്തിട്ട് ചെയ്തോണ്ടിരിക്കുക. അപ്പൊ ഒരേ നിർബന്ധം തന്നെ പോലെ ചപ്പണമെന്ന്. ഞാനപ്പം രണ്ടും എടുത്ത് കയ്യിൽ വെച്ച് കൊടുത്തു. എന്നിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞ ആവശ്യം കഴിയുമ്പോ തന്നാ മതി.
So this beautiful film by Rahul Sudha Mahesh was able to portray 3 different stories, very beautiful storylines, and how different the lives of 3 transgender people are from each other. But they all get together to point out how society has been treating them, how they have faced certain prejudices, they've faced certain behaviors from people around them. And it is such a beautiful intersection of that. I will pass on my mic to Chitvan.
Thank you so much, Rashmi, for showcasing such a beautiful and inspiring video, I will also say. Also, just to tell this one thing, this is one of the videos from the South Indian part of our country. So it's very, very of a underrated video, if you have to say. So keeping that in mind, we see this video as an example that matches well with the theme that we're showcasing today as well. Moving ahead, I will now request Sakhi and Sujitha to take over to explain about different movements in our country as well.
Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Sakhi. I'm co-founder at Queer Education India, and so today in our Changemaker program, we tried to touch on a topic which is very much related to all the struggle that queer community has have had in the past decades and almost like century. So we want to shed light on different queer movement across India that we would want to share with all of you. So the first thing that I would want to mention in regards with the queer movements is that India, how it is, has a lot of different rulers across centuries, across landscapes, and a lot of different regime invaded India or grew over India and tried to put their values in it and had different views on the different views on queerness, for example. So we have some of, if you can see on the slide, we have some examples of the regimes that try to rule over us that invaded India in along centuries. Some which is Parsis, Greeks, and Mughals, and we had a Dutch colony, we had a French colony, we have different parts of India which are Dutch colonies, Portuguese colonies, and we in the end of all of those regimes, we had the rule of Britain over India for almost 300 years, which entered India as a trading company but took over the subcontinent and ruled over all the princely states that we had at the time. Can we move forward to the slide? So, in regards to why this is important to us, in regards to the queer movements of India, is because when the British invaded and ruled over India for centuries, they imposed a very important and discriminatory, important as in important in history, which we need to look at, and very discriminatory section on the Indian subcontinent, which is of course very famous IPC Section 377, which was imposed in 1861, if I correctly remember. So, according to Section 377, what does it say? So, we have managed to post the kind of official wordings of Section 377, which says unnatural offences. Whoever voluntarily has carnal intercourse against the order of nature with any man, woman, or animal shall be punished with imprisonment of life. Imprisonment of life, or with imprisonment of either description of for a term which may extend to 10 years. So basically, under 377, any sex that is unnatural according to them, which can include anal, oral, or homosexual sex, if we can, on a larger level, was criminalized, and we could have been imprisoned for life or more than 10 years just because of our sexual orientation. So this one crucial section of IPC 377 was brought up by the British in the colonial rule. Can we move forward? So not just 377, but also the Tribes Act, which criminalized one of the most ancient community of transgenders and intersex in India, called the Hijras. According to Criminal Tribes Act, these kind of tribes, including many more scheduled tribes, are habitual offenders or born criminals, and so they criminalize these tribes as a whole, which included Hijra community, which is a very famous ancient community of India, which includes transgender people and intersex people as largely. So, next slide, I would want Sujitha to explain.
Thank you, Sakhi. So we are going to go over a very common misconception or myth, right? This is a very common talking point that is used by bigots to basically deny LGBT plus people of their humanity and their basic rights. And what they say is that the LGBTQ plus people are these concepts, these ideas are a Western import. This is not something that is natural, and so on and so forth. So is there any basis to that? There isn't. That's the short answer. There are many instances recorded throughout history across the globe about the existence of transgender people, the existence of intersex people, expression of love and sexual acts between people of the same gender or the same sex, right? We don't even have to try very hard to look for it. It's not like it was deliberately hidden also, yes, but then we do have access to these things very easily. But this is still a common talking point. Only works when it only works to basically support the oppression of LGBT plus people, to support the bigotry against them. Can we move on to the next slide?
Okay, so like Sujitha explained, that it is kind of very foolish to say that homosexuality was never a part of India and it's only a Western influence. But on the contrary, we, with evidence, believe that not homosexuality, but homophobia is one of the most influential Western thing that we have in our country right now. So in regards to 377, it is just not the root cause of India for homophobia, but also root cause of other colonies of Britain at that time, which were Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Malaysia, Singapore, Maldives, and Jamaica. Singapore recently decriminalized homosexuality, which we had a big celebration on. And we need to note that even in I won't say ki we always had a very bright environment around us. Of course, there were backlashes, but for example, in Mughal period, the transgender community was appointed as guards in queens' cubicles and all of those things, which is and used to trade for the queen and used to bring all the messages from the male side of the palace to the female side of the palace. So all of these things are evidence, and the temple of India is evidence. The Veds and Kama Sutra is the evidence that we had always been up about vocal about homosexuality. Even for the fact Mahabharata is a evidence for that. But for major homophobia, we only have the evidence that it was the first time it was criminalized by law was done under the British regime by 377. So in the next slide, which is I'm going to explain about. So in regards in India, what has been happening since the British colony? We are no more a British colony. Britain left us independent in 1947. So after 1947, we did kind of remove the Criminal Tribes Act, but we did not remove 377 from our constitution. We kept it in our constitution, and we finally adopted our constitution in 1950, which included the problematic section 377 of IPC. Can you move to the next slide? So after this inclusion of 377 in our constitution, there was no much talk about homosexuality until in the mainstream, until we see a mathematical genius, Shakuntala Devi, writing a book called The World of Homosexual, which talked about decriminalization of homosexuality, and also talked about we should provide them full acceptance and not just tolerance or sympathy towards the homosexuals. And I do not have resources for that, but I can totally believe that this might be a rumor, but I read somewhere that Shakuntala Devi's husband was a homosexual, and she was much more aware about all of these things than than other people that we have at that time. So that is one record that we have, a book on homosexuality by Shakuntala Devi. Can you move forward? Yeah. So the All India Hijra Conference. For this, I would like to mention that for a longer time, when things were about to get harder and harder for different communities, we had a call in 1981 in Agra, which is a city which symbolizes love, with a monument very worldwide famous, Agra, which was attended by 50,000 members of the Hijra community. And it was one big successful conference that was held, where they talked about how they can go forward with basic rights that they needed at the time, that was also not given to them at that time. So this was one milestone of the queer movements, where we can see people organizing themselves together and thinking of something more. Next, I would want Sujitha to explain the next slides.
All right. Great. So we are just going over the timeline of events that were important for the LGBTQ plus movement in India. So in 1994, the Hijra community was granted the legal voting rights. Their votes were recognized. So for those of us who are not familiar, the Hijra community primarily consists of intersex people. Now, this happened in the November of 1994, and it gave the basic right of voting to over 1.2 million people of the Hijra community. This is by no standard a small population by any means, but it still took a decade-long fight for us to be recognized even in such a small way. Can we move on to the next slide? All right, great. So we're coming back to section 377, and this part of history is the first, let's call it, recorded opposition to the section 377. So this was a petition raised in the May of 1994 by the AIDS Bhedbhav Virodhi Andolan. This followed an incident where the then superintendent of the Tihar jail refused to provide condoms to their inmates on the grounds that the act of providing condoms, the act of providing safety, would encourage homosexual acts. And at this time, Section 377 was also quoted to justify their unwillingness to, or their refusal to provide condoms to the inmates. Another small thing that we need to know about this petition is that back in 2001, it was eventually dismissed because the ABVA who raised the petition, they were unable to follow through due to lack of resources to pursue the petition. And that is how it was dismissed. We can move on to the next slide. All right. So I just want to quickly talk about what was happening, just to make a comparison, right? Section 377 is what is appropriately called as a draconian law that we had inherited from our colonizers. And back in 1967, Britain had already decriminalized homosexuality. Not that it is like a particularly progressive act on its own, but it was a great step towards the rights of the LGBT plus community. And here we were, it took us 3 decades to have the first recorded formal objection to Section 377. It is weirdly ironic and absurd that a lot of the countries who inherited this from our colonizer, we probably did not have any regulations surrounding very particular sexual acts before then. But then we were very keen on holding on to this, even though Britain itself had decriminalized these acts back in the 1960s. Yes, we can go on to the next one. Sakhi, could you please take over for me?
So, we all love pride parades, of course, because it's kind of a celebration where we can be totally free and we have our mates and friends around us celebrating it with us and just walking for a cause for our safety and everything. So, when was the first pride that happened for India? It happened in 1999, like just here, and it was only attended by 15 individuals. It happened in Kolkata, and it was named as Friendship Walk of 1999, and it was not even called a Pride Parade. But because of the idea, we take it as a Pride Parade. We can term it as a Pride Parade, but it was eventually a friendship walk with 15 queer individuals walking into Calcutta with matching T-shirts. I just believe that's a very awesome idea. And so, why this is important to talk about is that now what we see, the Pride Parade is having a lot of emotions and a lot of energy. One, also because we now are over 377. It is we are not criminals anymore, but at that time they were looked as 15 criminals, sexual criminals walking on the street of Kolkata. So we all believe that it's a very big step. And also, if we look at the logo that they have of the LGBT India with the pink triangle, which also is very significant in the queer history, and I think we should talk about it in very brief way. There's 2 to 3 minutes, it's not enough to talk about the pink triangle. And for this vague idea, I will tell you that a pink triangle signifies the queer individuals who were executed by the Nazis. So in a concentration camp, Nazis used to put a pink triangle on their uniforms of all the homosexual, be it Jews, be it gypsies, be it German, of course. They used to put this kind of symbol on their uniform, and they used to execute all of them. Almost 15,000 queer individual were executed and had this symbol. So the queer movement took the pink triangle and made it into a symbol of their courage and a history of attacks and brutal attacks and everything. So this pride parade friendship walk plays a very significant role as we move forward in the queer movements of India. Next slide, I would want
so back in 2009, the Delhi High Court gave a very important verdict. The verdict stated that Section 377 is a violation of the fundamental rights that are granted to all citizens, to all Indian citizens. And the Delhi High Court gave a verdict that said this, basically. Right. Now, this again doesn't mean that the decriminalization of Section 377 doesn't mean that the rights of LGBT plus people were otherwise recognized, or them as people were being talked about or being treated as equal human beings. But it was still a very important step in India's LGBT plus movement. Can we move to the next slide? Okay. So even though this was something that happened in 2019, and we thought that, okay, great, we took a big step, it's a good step, and we'll move forward. That's what we were all thinking, right? So in 2013, the Supreme Court just reversed the Delhi High Court verdict. They tried to justify it by basically making the point that Section 377 must be discussed, debated in Parliament, and it should not be decided by a court, because it only targeted certain, like, very specific sexual acts, but not any groups of people. So that was the line of argument that was introduced. And since then, things have been going okay. It's been up and down. There is no set direction that you can assign so far, but we are looking forward to things getting better. Right. So in 2014, we had this really progressive landmark judgment, right, Nalsa versus Union of India, where a very basic ask or a very basic aspect of transgender people was acknowledged formally, legally. So this particular judgment gave the right to self-identify, and it is still a big deal, because earlier it just used to be male, female, and then third gender. But then the word third gender doesn't really mean much, especially it didn't mean much when you talk about recognizing the basic human rights of transgender people. So this judgment also noted very specifically that someone's gender, so when you say someone can self-identify, it means that there is no medical intervention or medical screening that is necessary in order to acknowledge that person's gender identity. We also noted in that that any medical exam or a biological test would violate their right to privacy. So this amount of detail was noted. However, there was no proper framework to implement these. So for example, if someone's right to privacy is getting violated, what happens then? There was no proper framework to follow through on the judgment itself.
So, in 2013, as Sujitha mentioned, that Supreme Court Supreme Court rolled back the High Court judgment and said that it should be discussed into the Parliament. But what happened? We have a Congress member, which is a member of Lok Sabha, trying to introduce a private bill that had to decriminalize homosexuality in the Parliament, which what the Supreme Court said, but was rejected by majority votes in the Lok Sabha for introduction itself. Like the Lok Sabha voted against the introduction of the private bill by Shashi Tharoor, who is a member of Lok Sabha. And from this marks as a like movement, as a point in queer history, because queer history of India, because when it was asked by the Parliament that please do it asked by the court, please do it in the Parliament, we tried and it was rejected by the majority vote, and which again is ironical because we tried doing it what the court asked us to do, but it was again rejected, and there was no progress that could have been made in that kind of settings, because the proposal itself, the introduction of a bill was itself voted against. So the the koshish, what we say, to try to implement, try to get basic human rights and not be termed as a criminal was again on a downward journey because of this rejection. So we can move forward. So in 2018, after 3 years, we finally got the decriminalization, which is one of the most historical judgments in the history of India and of queer history of India. So decriminalization of homosexuality, the abolition of 377 IPC was done under a petition given by different organizations like NAS and or different individuals who were lawyers and who were lawyers by profession, dancer by profession. For example, Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India, where Navtej Singh Johar is a professional dance artist. After this petition, after years and years in 2016 and years of discussion in the Supreme Court, we were able to decriminalize homosexuality in September 2018, and also we were able to decriminalize. And what was I about to say? Yeah, so basically the idea was that this was one of the major landmark judgment that we could have ever encountered, and because it was Supreme Court at this time, so it was like a final winning. Earlier it was High Court of Delhi. 2009 was High Court of Delhi, so it could have been challenged, which it got challenged in, like we have seen. But because this was Supreme Court, so it was like a stamped judgment that now we are no more criminals. So I would like to move forward. Yeah, Sujitha, please talk about this.
All right, thank you. So in 2019, the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Bill came up, right? Now, this was very conflicting. It gained a lot of criticism from the transgender community. Why? Because when we had the NALSA ruling, right, they recognized the right of a person to self-identify as a gender, with their gender. They specified that insisting on any gender affirming care, specifically in the form of a sex reconstruction surgery, is immoral, it's unethical, and that is the general consensus amongst the transgender community as well. But then with the Transgender Persons Act, that changed. So even in order to gain the recognition according to your gender, you would first need to procure a certificate that would call you transgender, and then you need the involvement of medical professionals to permit you to pursue gender affirming healthcare. So this puts people in a position where they have to explain their gender identity, their very personal struggles with their identity, to someone who may not even understand these concepts, because the medical professional is we are not equipped to carry out this kind of a process, but we are still implementing it. So then they have to pursue that, and then one has to go through a lot of there are a lot of requirements. Like medically, a person needs to present a certain way. Socially, they need to present a certain way in order for excuse me, can the other person please mute yourself?
Just one thing, Sujitha, someone is trying to get access to speak. Just a quick note to everyone, we'll give a chance for people to ask questions towards the end, so that they should not keep waiting for a approval for the mic to be on.
Thank you so much, Shivansh. I'm so sorry. So I was just saying that this has changed. So with the Transgender Protection of Rights Act, we have not only, like, it is not just insufficient for the protection of transgender people, but it is also going backwards on the progress that we had made earlier. So just noting that, I think we can move on to the next slide. All right, great. So right now, what is going on? Same-sex marriage is still being debated. This is what I was referring to earlier when we said that the direction is going a little bit back and forth, but eventually we hope to move forward. Transgender activists are still fighting for horizontal reservations, which would be the affirmative action that is required. Apart from this, there is also a lot of like situations that are being observed on a day-to-day basis, the perception of LGBT plus people amongst the common people. So let's not think about legal processes, laws, procedures. Even if we put aside, let's think about society, how we interact with each other, how we function and coexist with each other. So I will be discussing this shortly. Can we please move to the next slide? Thank you. Right. So I just want to quickly make a distinction between the state authorized oppression that we had discussed throughout, which includes the Section 377, the Trans Protection Bill, and the Criminal Tribes Act that Sakhi talked about earlier, where just all of these, I want to summarize it as state authorized ways of dismissing or propagating violence against an entire community of people. And now let's just put that aside and talk about our functioning, our acceptance within society. Like I said, what does our day-to-day activities and interactions look like? So to give a good example, when the conversation starts about same-sex marriage, we hear the same old talking points about how homosexuality is unnatural, how it is not normal, it is a Western problem, that poor people or people of certain class locations do not experience these issues that are related to the LGBT plus community. And it comes from a place of ignorance. This ignorance has been informed throughout a long time by existing preconceptions, some notions, and all of these misinformation have been reinforced in the mainstream media. And for a very long time, it was very, very difficult to find any positive representation of the LGBT plus community in mainstream media. This has come up multiple times. There have been a lot of protests against certain media that had come out. But then this is what has led to what society we are in today. Can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, thank you. So Queer Education Initiative Foundation wants to affect this, wants to impact this, wants to change this. We are pursuing a two-pronged approach in our activism. So one side of that is to reach younger human beings. People like to call them kids. I prefer to call them younger human beings. They are no different from adults in any way. They can think for themselves. They just need to grow up. So the aim with that is that, firstly, they must feel comfortable in truly expressing themselves and knowing that they have a space where they would be accepted as they are. So that is one aspect of it. And the second aspect is that these youngsters are going to grow up and become the next generation. They are going to become the upcoming generation. They are going to be paving the way for how inclusive society can be in the future. It is not just limited to LGBT plus people as a community. So it is very important for them, for youngsters to get exposed to be open-minded, to be critical in their thinking, and to break outside of stereotypes, especially things that they are just simply taught or simply required to absorb. So they need to start questioning things as to why something is a certain way. So that is one side of it. And the other side of the work that we do is we want to reach adults as well. We want to enable people to make sure that their workspace or their immediate surroundings, their interactions with their neighbors, their interactions with their friends, their interactions with their own kids, their interaction with their kids' friends, how do you make other people, oppressed people, feel safer? So these are the things that we want to reach out to people with in order to empower them with the information that they need, that they can use to build a more inclusive society. And this is how we think that our work is going to have an impact and break this vicious cycle of misinformation feeding into misinformation, and just like keep going the same way. So this is all I had to say. With that, we can move on to the next section. All right. Chitvan, do you want to? All right. Shivansh, do you want to unmute yourself?
Okay, so Shivansh is here.
Okay, so in our next section, we'll try and see if we have any sort of audience that would like to participate. Now we'll open the floor with, we'll give you certain prompts. So these are basic topics that we can discuss about in relation to queer education and queerness in the country. And then the floor is open for people to contribute and ask questions.
If anybody has any questions right now, you can put them forward.
All right.
You can, if you do not have access to mic, either you can ask for an access or just type out your question in the chat.
Okay.
All right. So while people are sending in their own questions or requesting to participate, I think I can take a question that we received earlier. Let me quickly find that. Okay, so the question was from Simi Mishra, who had asked, how can we involve LGBTQ plus students in shaping and guiding queer education initiatives? I do think this is a broad question, but I'll try my best to answer it. The younger generation is absolutely amazing. Every time I see them taking initiative, coming forward, even the way they present themselves, they are so much more well equipped than some of us older people. And I'm very, very proud of them. And especially with LGBTQ plus youngsters, they are being, they know so much. Even though they lack the amount of support that they require, they are so very resourceful. They still set up systems or work on setting up systems so that they can be safe at the point of time in the future. I just sincerely wish that I had that kind of, I don't know, capacity when I was growing up. Now, how do you want to involve these students in queer education initiatives? The basic prerequisite that we want to set up is firstly for LGBT plus individuals to feel safe in all the environments that they are mostly exposed to. So I would say school and college is a big chunk of this. People spend pretty much their entire life, as in if you see how many hours of time they spend in a day at their school or at their college. So we need to start from there. Now, anecdotally, like a lot of bullying or the lot of internalized messaging that LGBT plus people get on, oh, okay, this is not normal, or this is weird, or other types of bullying does begin at the school level, not even necessarily from their peers, but very likely from the teachers themselves. So I think we, on the whole, have to make a commitment towards our youngsters to provide them with a safe space. So that is going to start again from sensitizing the teachers who are interacting with younger students. And I think if they set a proper example, if they behave as a proper role model, that would be a great start. And from there, it is simply just encouraging these kids to be themselves. I genuinely do not think they need additional direction, but then even if they do, we need systems that are in place that they can just simply access. So that is my take on that. Would anyone else want to add anything to what I said?
I would want to add.
Yes, Sakhi.
So as a student myself, one thing I disagree with Sujitha here, that we essentially do not spend most of our time of the day into school, but we spend it while traveling to the school or college. I spend my almost more than 3-4 hours into the metro itself. So not that point. So as a student, I would like to say, how can we include more and more students into shaping and initiating more queer inclusive things, is how, one, we need to find more queer students, and two, we need to find students that are ready to listen, who might not be queer students but are ready to listen. And I believe, for especially for queer students, if we are going forward to recognize them and trying to bring more and more students into things that can bring change, is to make them realize that being not speaking your ideas, not speaking your courage, and hiding is not the only solution that is going to keep you safe. I truly agree that somewhat being closeted, somewhat not speaking your ideas keeps you safe, because this is hard times right now, and especially for questions. But we need to make them realize that this is not only the idea that can keep you safe, but also the total opposite, where you speak your idea very confidently, where we can give you we can try and give you solidarity, and you can speak your ideas openly into the crowd and come forward. Might not want to come out, but come forward and try to just express yourself, is also a safe option that we can create together. Might not be safe at the initial places. For example, we all might be openly queer at some places in our workspace or in my class, but I always think in the back of my head, oh, maybe one day I'll be attacked. But we need to make sure that we create a safe space for ourselves, because if we are in a type of environment where we need to find solidarity, where finding solidarity is very hard. So, and if we get some, we should hold on it and try to move forward and make ourselves free and safe, while not make ourselves hide ourselves and make us safe. So if we try and make ourselves free and safe, then we'll be able to know, okay, now I'm free, I can do these things also. I can go ahead and write poems and post it. I can go ahead and talk about this and in my class, or I can try and pitch my department to do a seminar on this thing. So that is how we can try, in very small steps we can try and move forward with queer inclusion and initiatives that we can try. In my opinion, that's what I think. Anything you want to add, Chitvan and Rashmi or Shivansh, or anybody from the audience also in chat, or anything you want to add anything?
I think this queer inclusivity is a two-way process. Like the institution also has to take steps to be more inclusive, to be more safe. And I don't think we even have sex education in school, or something that is very important, which is something that is very important in schools, or uh, we are having such media that might mislead us. So institutions hold a responsibility, and they should also take up that responsibility. uh, with that, I would also like to give you examples of some universities that are taking steps. Usually, universities have a dressel council or committees for complaints. Uh, Very few universities in India have inclusive spaces for transgender people, or transgender only hostels or washrooms. Very few universities do, but they do. And I think that is very important. Uh, Small steps do lead to big changes. Adarsh Srivastav wants mic access. Should I approve it? Okay.
Hi, Adarsh. Is Adarsh still with us? Okay, all right, no worries. Thank you, Sakhi and Rashmi, for adding on those points. Chitvan, Shivansh, do you have anything to say in regards to how we can include or empower LGBT plus students in shaping the direction of queer education?
So, as much
Okay,
as I agree,
I think some of us are having network issues.
right.
If we
Okay.
don't have anything, hi,
I
yes,
just
please
wanted
proceed. Both of you are audible. Shivansh, do you want to go first and then Shatwan can follow?
is that okay, I just wanted to draw from my personal experience. I mean, looking back at my school education, uh, in hindsight, if there were some measures that I can think of, that maybe the school organization or the parents welfare organization, those things could have taken, would have been, let's say, providing for spaces where such things can be talked about. um, Everyone knows that in all schools in India, uh, at least for girls, just before they hit puberty, most schools have this conversation while taking girls into a separate workshop area, and then they inform them. Boys mostly are left out of this conversation completely, for fear that this could lead to bullying, or maybe they will not understand and create issues. I feel we need to have more open conversations in schools. As much as you can provide information to students, they feel more comfortable about those thoughts, because uh, nowadays everything is there on internet, everything and more. If you're not providing answers to students straight away, they will find out answers, and then you have no control over the kind of information that you're providing to the students. So schools need to do this in a more structured way, and with specifically regarding queer education, we should have gender diversity and queer issues being talked about in formal education.
Yeah, am I audible to everyone? I guess yes. So, as much as I agree with all of my members over here on various topics, that various ideas that they have put forward, I also want to add the very recent activity that we from Queer Education Initiative Foundation also did, which was, as we most often, most of the time we conduct the workshops for school children on good and bad touch, on touch and bullying, etc. We also apparently plan to have a workshop for them on topic of menstrual hygiene and sanitation, etc. And something which I think we all are really proud about is that we made sure that there is no biasness present over there in any form, gender or whatever. Which is why in the room full of 30 girls, there were also remaining 20 boys with over there in itself. We also made sure that uh, every person over there in the room is feeling comfortable. Like it was not, as Rashmi also said, it's a two-way conversation. It's a two-way efforts, right? We never wanted to, and we never want to, in fact, be professors over here or in any place. Just be the speakers, rather a listeners or a person to talk to comfortable, in a very comfortable manner. Making sure that okay, the individual is comfortable enough, because at the end of the day, it takes a little time for any person out there to share anything which is regarding their mental hygiene or whatever doubts they have. It takes a little time and energy and a little trust for a person to talk about it freely. So considering that, we oftenly do this, and I think we as Education QI Foundation is really proud about that. Similarly, about the question that was asked, I also have something to add over there. That's particularly that for the students, how can we, involve LGBT plus students in shaping and guiding? So there is one thing that we, as from QEI Foundation, also learned side by side at the same time while we were doing our work, while we were, doing what bringing the change that we want to see. Apparently, we realized at the time that we cannot just talk about the gender, sex, and sexuality to a mass of people who aren't even aware about the basic things and the least things that one must be aware of. That is also the sole reason we made sure that person that we are reaching out to should be at least aware about the basic fundamentals out there, which is supposed to be understood by an individual. Considering the question, if we have to say, if I have to add my personal say, and not even personal, as an organization say, we have to say that the country that we're living in right now and the time that we are in right now, it definitely will take quite some time to be in that comfortable and good space where everyone or most of the people from the community is accepted and they are out and loud and there's no bias is present over there and any kind of interest is there. But considering the current scenario, if we have to say, the only way that I personally see to involve the LGBTQ plus students in shaping and guiding, queer education initiatives, we must make sure that the individual out there, first of all, is safe. Now, that is something which is, I want to personally say, supposed to be covered in every aspect. Safe, when we say safe, safe as in financially safe as in emotionally safe at a stable position, safe as in they are supported from the back end of the day. There's a lot to it. It is. It might be easier for us to just say, "Yeah, okay, that the person should be in a safe environment, in a safe background, coming from a a good background and a, I would say, which we also like somehow when we are discussing within the team, we say privileged backgrounds, etc. But we have to make sure, and I really love this about our team and about Queer Education Initiative Foundation, that we always avoid any kind of biasness out there. We are not putting our efforts for a group of individuals or a mass out there just which is there out privileged, and they are already accessible, getting access to everything possible, every education possible. And that is why sort of queer education is there, that we not consider having our word or education spread only and only to a certain group of people. We have, and I'm really lucky to say that out loud, that we have removed most of the biasness and we are continuously moving any sort of I would say barriers which actually stops sort of a group of individuals or people who are not getting the access to particular education. So this is something which also made me personally learn the aspect that people from the community are everywhere. We cannot expect in the back of our mind that okay, only the people from the or the LGBTQIA students can be only expected from a high standardized school, or a school which is providing a really good education, or that we like to say as privileged education. So in the overall of it, I would just like to say that we hope that we have delivered the message of it, and we have quite well answered the question that was raised as well. Yeah. Sujitha, would you like to take over?
Great. So thank you guys for like sharing your insights on this. But unfortunately, I do think we are at the end of our time, so we may
Hi,
not be able to
am I
address
audible?
the other question
Sorry
that
to
we have.
interrupt. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi,
Yes.
it's Deblina. So I have a question that what is your vision as you all are involved in this queer education? So what is your vision?
Is it okay if I take that? Rest of you all? Okay, cool. We dream of a world where every person has equal access to all the opportunities out there, irrespective of their gender, identity, class, whatever background. And our priority, or I wouldn't say priority, our focus, our method of reaching this ideal world that we dream of is through the work that we are doing, is through the education that we are focusing on. Our belief, the entire philosophy that we work on is based on how a lack of awareness and misinformation creates like a breeding ground for hatred and bigotry. So that is where we are operating from. Does that help? Does that help understand?
It makes sense. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Deblina. Is there, do we have more time? Is there any other questions you can answer?
Yeah, I can check. Is there any question in the chat box?
Okay, I was under the impression that we were out of time. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to rush anyone.
You can actually see a lot of.
Can we
I think we did have a question from Suni about if we can share examples of schools or educators in India that have successfully implemented inclusive queer education. Who of us wants to take this, team?
I do not have a lot of resources or examples, but I have one in Delhi, which is the Ambedkar University, which is known to be very inclusive of queer community and also has gender neutral washrooms in it. And apart from that, I believe that Hindu College of DU might not have gender neutral washrooms, but has a very functioning queer collective, which is very helpful around the campus. Yeah, so I can put that from my understanding.
I think the higher institutions, universities, have implemented more initiatives to help queer people, like having a committee to ensure that they are not getting bullied. A very present committee. Many law schools in India do. One of the law school in India, that is NLU Hyderabad, has separate washrooms for trans people as well as separate hostels for trans people to make them feel safer, which is a very good step. So we can see more higher education institutions taking initiative in implementing things to make sure that the LGBTQ community feels safe. Uh, while saying that, I also would like to add that this isn't really true for the education system that we have in schools. Uh, and there is a dire need for such education, sex education, as well as education about uh, uh, the community, about who we are, uh, so that the children or the people of age, the teenagers, can question. If they're questioning, they won't get much help in high school, or they might get bullied because there is no redressal mechanism there. So, yeah, there is one thing that the educational institutions need to implement. the school education institutions need to implement.
I would like to add a few things. I truly understand the motive of looking for inclusive spaces in education system, but sadly, even very recently, we can see an example of Jadavpur University, which is one of the most progressive and uh, a good university to be noted, a progressive land. But we recently lost a student of Jadavpur University to bullying and suicide. So, and not just random bullying, but homophobic bullying. And we for queer inclusivity, so I think should come, and at the same time, in all the education systems, I'm talking about higher education systems here. I would want I believe that not just queer inclusivity that we should focus on, a lot of bullying and harassment that might not happen from the administration, like administration might have gender neutral washrooms or um, uh, policies that assure queer students their identity, but the fellow students that we might have in those university can target anybody to bullying and harassment on basis of caste and class and gender and sexuality. Uh, that is one thing that I think our education system also fails to create, even when we have administration inclusive spaces that we can see. For example, in AUD only, we might be able to see a student itself harassing other students, but while the administration allows safety to the student. On the lower education for intermediate and high school wala level, I would like to mention, I think we all have forgotten uh, around this time that we had an NCRT guide for teachers to how to be more inclusive towards queer students, which included queer role models, which included idea of gender neutral washroom, but was banned, vaguely banned by religious extremists. So while we can find for inclusive spaces, I think more important here would be what kind of crowd are we around, right? So that is
I want to quickly add something to that. So the particular handbook that Sakhi mentioned, right? So NCRT made this handbook for the use of teachers, right? But then there was still a protest that even the teachers who are dealing with students should not be educated, should not be sensitized on LGBT plus people. So with that kind of an attitude, and as Shivansh was talking about earlier in his anecdote about how there was a workshop on puberty and menstrual health, and then the girls and the boys of the classroom were separated. So with this being the prevailing condition, and this is a prevailing condition, unfortunately, queer education as a part of formal education, I may be cynical, but I cannot even envision it happening as a consistent thing that is accessible to all of our students. So I just wanted to quickly add that. Chitvan, please take over.
Sure. So first of all, just quick check from Sujitha, Sakhi, and Rashmi. Do we want the screen to be shared as of now?
we can switch it off.
Right?
We had
Yes, Rashmi, I understood,
prompts
but
to be shared.
I don't think so. We have enough time. We already have one more question from
Right.
Sada. Thank you for your question. And
okay, so
yeah.
I'll take that up, yeah. So Sadav asked that wanted to know what are the action steps that an individual should follow for an inclusive environment of a queer person. Now, I'll be very honest. Firstly, I'm really glad that this question is having brought up because I think it is. I have particularly seen it in a very rare circumstances that an individual is actually looking forward, to understand, and like have a follow, just a following process as to be how that individual can make an inclusive environment or can contribute for making an inclusive environment for a individual. Now, there are very, very basic things that we also tend to tell in our generic gender sensitization programs as well. But I'll just sum it up by saying that there are a few things like, first of all, language. Now, when we talk about language particularly, there is a whole dire need of being gender inclusive and gender neutral as at the same time, right? As an individual from the community itself, I personally would like to address that whenever we are speaking out in a public forum or anywhere else, usage of correct pronouns and usage of gender neutral language, as well as putting forward your own pronouns when addressing or whenever required, while introducing or whatever. This makes a sense of inclusivity for sure. It definitely, let's say there's a cool group of 10 people who are introducing, themselves for each other. You never know who's a queer individual or not. You never know that. But it's not about being queer or not. It's more about being, gender neutral towards the environment. Again, how to make it inclusive, right? So if all of those 10 people are, you know, I would say considering enough that they just speak out their, pronouns out there by introducing themselves. That will at least make that environment particularly understood of this one thing, that this space is, secure and safe enough that a person can be addressed and as the person should be actually with their right pronouns. Now, as much least and basic as it sounds like, it is not in a whole aspect, because in a very generic form of it, we see people misgendering others, right? In a broader sense of it. If I could go about second thing that one can do is just not presuming things. You know, there is a whole bunch of things. People tend to understand and presume rather that this person might be from the community, or let's say if there's an individual and let's say there is an individual A who knows that individual B is from the LGBTQIA community, right? They might have told them or addressed them or just conversation, whatever. And somehow they just tend to, it's a very generic thing. It's not something that always happens, but I'm just putting out an example if I have to say. Now they just tend to, presume a lot of things about that individual being, right? So I always say that, and I think most of us would agree on that, that rather ask in a very respectful way, in a very, basic way, in a way that shouldn't and will not, make the other person feel vulnerable and miserable in their own identity, in their own skin. Ask the questions, you know, and do not always expect to be answered as well. You know, nobody is obligated enough to be, answerable about their identity in the first place. That's the extent that
Chitvan,
you.
can you quickly give me an example of how I would do that? So let's say I'm
Yes.
meeting someone in a new group and I want to be friends with them and I'm trying to get to know them, but I don't want to be intrusive. So can you give me a few examples of how I should phrase my question?
All right, let's maybe like do it over here. Okay, let's try it. Okay. So okay, we have three over here: Sakhi, me, and Sujitha. We don't know any of us right now. Let's say we don't know. Uh, Sakhi and Sujitha, I don't know you guys. Please, I'm sorry. So
Hi, I'm Sakhi. Sorry. Continue.
right, that makes sense, right? Hi everyone, I'm Chitvan, and yeah, I got to pronounce they he. And let's say Sujitha goes ahead and introduce himself. Now, see, the thing is that I personally used to know Sujitha, and that's the reason I also know Sujitha's pronouns, and that is why I'm using he. Whereas, let's say in this environment when I'm not aware about Sujitha, I'm not aware who Sujitha is, then I'll say let's meet you. Let's let them introduce themselves, right? This is this is the least, right? And there's a whole again. I'm not saying that they and them are the correct pronouns over here. I'm not saying that. There's a huge line of understanding. These are the correct pronouns. These are the gender neutral pronouns that a person must use when is totally unaware about someone's identity and someone's appropriate pronouns. Right? Yes, yes.
Also, I would like to mention that now that we are talking about gender neutral language and I would like to. So I remember when I was talking about the same topic, I had this question from somebody that asked me a very interesting question, that the gender neutral language is very specific to an educated crowd, and not all educated crowd is queer, right?
Okay.
I had this question, but all crowd do have gender like creative
Dance.
gender identities within them, be it
Hmm.
any kind of class, be it any kind of religion, be it any kind of caste or creed that we can see, any kind of tribe we see. So when we're talking about gender neutral in discuss language, we do not specifically mean English.
Right.
I I am half from Lucknow, and we speak gender neutral uh, there
Right.
itself, even about ourselves usually. And and in that, so my point here is, uh, while this question might come up and also can clear out some doubts, we do have every kind of queer people, gender creative people in every kind of crowds, and we do not specifically need to have English as their pronounced thing. But
Right.
eventually, for example, if there's a trans woman, let's make sure we call her a woman. Make sure we respect her identity and not make a big deal about it, of course. I have
Right.
one very, very simple way that you can be inclusive in any kind of crowd is just know that their queer identity, their homosexual identity is not the whole self of them. They are much more bigger than that. I am much more bigger than a homosexual. I'm much more bigger
Right.
than a this thing. So yeah, that I just wanted to shortly add. Also, you can continue.
Thank you.
That's,
Thank you.
thank you, Sakhi, for adding that. I'll
So,
just quickly take a cross check from Anand, sir, if we are shortage on time or not.
okay. So I think in the meantime, I just want to quickly
Yes,
add. Even something seemingly simple questions may be very intrusive. So, for example, just randomly asking someone, like let's say you think that this person is a woman, and you approach them and you ask them, "Oh, are you married? Oh, do you have a boyfriend?" And it might seem like a very simple, friendly question. You're just trying to get to know them and everything, but then it may make them feel unsafe. So I think it would really help us a lot if we completely rethink our ideas of what is considered normal. Like if we check our own biases that we have, when we see someone, we immediately put them into a particular box. These are things that take time to unlearn, but working on this seriously would help you make people feel safe, even if you are completely unaware about what their gender identity is, about what their sexuality is, about what their romantic orientation is. That is a great place to start, as far as I know. Have you heard from Ananthi at Chitvan?
We haven't. I'll just quickly ask again, is Anand sir or Anagya ma'am is there in the meeting so that we can just get a quick time check. And moving ahead, I think I should just conclude the whole thing, right? For that, I'll just request the whole team to just turn on their cameras if they are still there, and just let's just quickly address the whole gathering for once. So yeah, Sakhi, Rashmi, Shivansh here.
He's facing some power issue. I'm not sure if it's back yet or what's happening. So with that, Sadaf, I really hope we answered your question. I hope this was
Yes.
helpful for you.
And honestly, Siddharth, at the end of the day, we really praise you to just put that question out. That's like a step towards inclusivity in itself. And yeah, maybe like just being open to learning and unlearning. That's the whole thing we say at the end of the day.
I am a smart.
Okay, so Sakhi, can you just quickly turn on your camera?
So while they are joining in, I think I want to take a moment to thank people for putting forward the questions that you did. This discussion shortly became very interesting. We did not expect this to go in this direction, like as a team. But I personally had a lot of fun, and just thanking the participants for that.
Definitely, it makes a lot of sense actually, and especially the questions were actually like genuinely so interesting, and I really love the question that is put forward by the first piece. I'm really honest, because that is something
Absolutely.
I'd like to again say that that's something that I have seen people not asking as much. I'll be honest, right? That seems like an effort in its own way. And if I have to just start off with my thank addresses, I think firstly, I guess thank you so much. Firstly, thank you so much for whole CDF and Changemaker20 Summit. Right now, this is very very huge of an opportunity for our team, our organization in its own way, in its own senses, because I think it's it has been a very short span of time where I believe that we are very young to this whole organizational aspects, etc. And this definitely is like a milestone that we have achieved. And with that being said, I also wanted to just say that this particular topic that we discussed today with you all, queer movements in India, I first of all believe that, okay, Sakhi, please try to rejoin if that's possible. Um, I personally believe that this is something that we, even as members of our organization, have seen. It's like it's like a topic that even we see, is lagging behind in the discussions out there. So this has been a whole learning process for us in the moment of the time as well. And I think Shivansh won't be able to join, but Shivansh says thank you to CDA for the opportunity to present our work and ideas. And it's by creating dialogue and opening spaces for conversations that we can enable change. So yeah, thank you for joining. And yes, I think we all will as well say, Sakhi's here, we all as well would like to say that thank you so much to CDF and Changemaker20 Summit and to every participant over here to listen, to address, to ask, to statement things, etc. I believe so, in my personal opinion, that it's always a step. If you are involved in something, it's always a step. Whether or not, I personally believe that I wish that you might have learned something out of it, right? Even if you have not, that's totally fine, right? I think you can just watch out the YouTube video. It's the name of the YouTube video is Birds of Paradise, the short film. That can actually help you as well to understand a few things. Similarly, at the same time, I also would like to just say this one thing, that to be more inclusive and to create a space which is safe, respectful, representative without any biases, and a lot more, one has to take actions. One has to take a little baby step forward, little baby step, because that will ensure that you are putting your efforts, and that is when the change that you as an individual or we as a whole group of individuals would like to see will be coming true. Yes, thank you so much to all who are present over here. And yeah, is there anything like I would request Sujitha, Rashmi, and Sakhi to say as well?
I will go first. I quickly want to once again, thank CDF a lot for giving us this opportunity, for giving us a platform where we have been able to reach all these people, where we have been able to answer and like hopefully clarify or help people with understanding some things that they may not have had exposure to. This Even though it is a very small act, answering a question may seem like a very small act, but being able to reach people in that manner, it's to me, it's very fascinating. And I just want to say formally, thank you so much for this opportunity. Sakhi, please go ahead.
Yeah. So of course, I truly believe we need to thank the platform, CTF, Simi Mishra, and all of my team members and all of our hard work also. I would also like to mention that a lot of information that we gathered to make this module was from resources that were present on Google, on articles of Guardian, of articles of Times of India, and a YouTube video of Nama Pride that included the history of uh, queer India type of. That was, I guess, the name of the video. And also just want to mention that let's we all be respecting and curious together. Yeah. Rashmi, you can go ahead and if you want to say something.
So I don't think the director of the movie is here. I would like to thank them a lot because they put that movie on a public platform, which is accessible to all of us and which we all can view and understand things about. I would also like to thank our team, which has put a lot of effort since the past week in creating this uh, whole PPT and everything, in putting this all together, and CDF and G20